You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Jerome Corsi, and today it is Monday. It's November 17th, 2025. You might notice the books are all gone from my bookcase back here. These were real books and real bookcases. As I mentioned on the show before, my wife at 32 years decided to have an affair and divorce me in 2023. And it's taking until now to have the divorce be final, to go through a trial and everything else. She basically, I think, suffered from when I was under the Mueller investigation that started it, when they wanted to put me in prison because they thought I had a tie to Assange, and I refused to take their plea deal. They did not indict me. Instead, they closed down the Mueller investigation. Of course, they threatened to put me before a jury in Washington, D.C. that would convict me and put me in prison the rest of my life. And when I refused to take their plea deal, I fully expected that was going to be the outcome. At any rate, at the settlement of the divorce, I decided that I'll be the one moving. And so we're packing up and moving. There'll be another chapter of my life starting without the woman I've spent a third of my life about. Maybe, let's see, almost, 32 years. That's a good chunk out of anybody's life. And so it's time to move on. Time for a new beginning, turn the page, a new chapter. And that's what I'm going to do. And my daughter and I and her family will be joining together, and we'll be on the next adventure in this strange episode called life. Today, let's cover a bunch of stories. First of all, with Donald Trump and the Epstein. And Chris, I want you to comment on some of these today.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump decided over the weekend to say that he wants the House now to vote to release all the Epstein documents and papers and everything else. And I think he's finally decided that it's what I've said from the very beginning. This is not going to go away. It's not going to go away until the American public gets the full story. The full story is that Donald Trump did not participate in the Epstein sex trade business. The young women that Epstein was traveling in, trading in, didn't appeal to Donald Trump. Donald Trump had a different profile of women that he was interested in, and they were mature adults that Donald Trump was found attractive, not underage women. So Epstein really had nothing to offer Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was smart enough to know that this was a blackmail scheme, and he didn't want to get involved in it. Donald Trump was around New York his almost entire life and understood how New York operates, understood blackmail, and was too savvy to get caught up in it and didn't need it. It wasn't desperate sexually, didn't have difficulties finding women if he wanted them. I mean, again, Epstein appealed to a particular psychology that is very vulnerable to being blackmailed. Someone who doesn't have anything and thinks it's difficult to obtain what they want. And Epstein is just providing it in a silver platter. Of course, that appeals to Bill Clinton and a lot of the Democrats. The Democrats, when they pressed for all this, and they tried to actually fabricate a story last week that would implicate Donald Trump. Chris, you want to comment on that?
It's been a long time where these Epstein files were never released. The Biden era, of course, was a huge 4-year gap in anything being done here. I will tell you this: if Donald Trump was actually in those files and implicated in any crimes, those would have been out. The information would have been released rather quickly. This is an administration which was trying to throw the man in jail on trumped-up charges. They would have had a gift, and they would have kept this man from running, because whether he could or not legally, nobody on the right would vote for him. Having said that, what the Democrats tried to do in the last week was perpetrate a major hoax by releasing the idea that Donald Trump was mentioned in emails involving Epstein that were, by the way, taken from Ghislaine Maxwell, was another questionable or an ethically questionable and possibly even legally questionable practice. Having said that, Donald Trump was never technically implicated in anything, but the Democrats kept pushing the idea that his name's in these emails, his name's here. Then all of a sudden, they released this redacted piece of paper trying to prove all of this. The media jumped on it, and we realized, or at least then it was realized, that Virginia Giuffre was the person who actually made this testimony, and she in the past exonerated Trump, said Trump never did anything with any women. He was a perfect gentleman. And this is why the Democrats, when releasing this information, redacted her name. I did it in a little roundabout way, but that's what happened. So they lied to us. They knowingly perpetrated a hoax to see if their base would get excited for the 2026 elections and make sure the media would cover it, because they don't really verify anything Democrats tell them.
Well, I'm shocked. I mean, the Democrats would actually doctor something to get a story. Oh, I guess they've never done that before, Russian collusion.
Oh, no, never. And they wouldn't lie about anything. And of
The
course,
Democrats never lie, do they? The Democrats always tell the truth, right?
Well,
especially in their communist Muslim mode.
Well, the media believes what you just said. This man, by the way, Jamie Raskin, was part of the people who are behind this hoax. Obviously, his fingerprints are all over it. But think about this:
and the consequences to him will be nothing, right?
Right.
Nothing will.
But think about this: when the media reports on anything a Democrat says or something that the Democrats make accusations about, they never release them. They seem to be programmed to believe the Democrats' words are the words of God. I'm going to take you back to that debate, the Harris-Trump debate with David Muir last year. Trump was kind of exaggerating, going, "Hey, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs," and all this stuff in Springfield. There were things happening in Springfield,
right?
But what David Muir said, and this sticks in my mind, he said, "Well, we at ABC here, we called up the city manager of Springfield, and he said nothing was really happening here. Nothing was going on that was so. What Trump is saying is not the truth." And they could actually have sent a reporter down there to check this out, but they didn't. They never wanted to ask themselves out of that answer or that retort to Donald Trump. They lazily regurgitated what a Democrat official said as the word of God.
Sounds like CBS.
Yeah, they're all like that.
CBS Meet the Press, or CBS. I mean, not Meet the Press. I mean, 60 Minutes.
We had a liberal press back in the day, but they used to double confirm and sometimes triple confirm on important stories.
Yeah, but now they just make it up.
Yes. Well, they want eyeballs, but as long as it's at the expense of the other team, not the people they're not allowed to expose.
Okay, two stories that caught my attention today were, one, this story about the Generation X and how it has been deprived of people by so many abortions. And it's a pretty shocking story when you take a look at it. You know, the fact is that abortions have decimated some of the generations that are coming up. And again, this doesn't get reported very much. I mean, no one seems to care. But we're raising generations today that are having suffered abortions, lost children who should have been their siblings, indoctrination through the computers. They're all addicted to computer games. And I'd say they're all, but I mean, the vast majority of the generations coming up start playing on computers when they're infants before they can speak. They can still navigate through a computer by pushing the screen and seeing what they want to see, once they figure out that as soon as they touch something, it changes. So that's a story that caught my attention, that in fact we're acknowledging finally that abortion has consequences and that there's a missing generation with 20 million dead. Okay, so it should be a major demographic story. again, it's going to be hard to find. Another major demographic story involves London. And there's a graphic here in terms of London of seeing since I guess it starts out about 1961, when the population of London was 98% white, to 2021 when it's 37% white. Okay, so you've had a great deal of Asian moving in, blacks, non-white, just non-white. I mean, so London, like a lot of other cities, the whites are leaving these Democratic hellholes. And when the Democrats are beginning to run Marxist Muslims, and it looks like we've got another one from Democratic Socialists of America emerging in California. She's going to run for mayor of LA. And I know you got a big smile like Kami Mandami. And the question is whether Mandami takes power, if he's going to, how long he's going to last before he commits a federal crime, say by protecting the illegal immigrants. And while Tom Homan has been keeping a low profile, or lower than before, the ICE is still very active, and Trump is ramping ICE up to be more active in the next year. So we're going to see more deportations, more self-deportations, and we're going to go in the opposite direction of Europe. And stories like this story of this Wisconsin town, which is under an advisory as an illegal alien South American crime ring, targets the community. This is on the Gateway Pundit today. So that, for instance, in this one little town in Wisconsin, the police are saying that all burglaries occurred between the days of Thursday and Saturday during evening hours, with the entry from the backyard. The homes were often located on cul-de-sacs or dead-end roads near wooded areas or golf courses, and unoccupied at the time of the break-in. Stolen items have been jewelry, watches, designer purses, and cash. Okay, so again, the Democrats can't protect people in these cities because they don't want to. Mondami's going to put in social workers instead of police officers in the 911 calls. Now that ought to be great. I mean, call up and get a marriage counselor when a married couple are about to commit violence against each other. What's the marriage counselor going to do? Now, these are, again, Democratic ideas which don't work. And over the weekend, I was in a presentation by Kevin Mooney, who is a conservative analyst, and he's writing a book which will be out very soon. It's a book I've helped get published, which is called Climate Porn. And it's going to demonstrate again how the bad ideas of the left were really aimed not at saving the planet, but getting us to not use hydrocarbon fuels, because the left knew that if we did not use hydrocarbon fuels, we could not support a global population in the billions, and people would begin dying, and that'd be just fine. If China reduced its population by 1/3, China would be happy. So these countries are really death-oriented these days. They're not life-oriented. Chris, do you want to comment on that one?
Oh, that is absolutely true. They're not life-oriented at all. It's funny because you're looking at the propaganda for all these years. We'll take you back to the story you did about Generation Z and how they're losing kids to abortion and everything else. And Generation Alpha and Beta are not going to be much better. A lot of media propaganda, a lot of political propaganda has gone or has kind of tried to discourage young people from creating families, and trying to discourage generally, and I hate to put it this way, young Caucasian people from having families. And what you're seeing, not just with the exodus and the population, everything else like that, but when people move in from, let's say, the third world, a lot of them not all of them, but a good number of families will replicate, if you will reproduce at a much higher level. than those who have been living in America for generations, or perhaps Britain as well.
I'll be happy. Yeah, I'd be happy to see white leftists not reproduce.
Right. The problem is, it normally might be a good thing because kids tend to rebel against their parents. So, so they probably produce conservatives. There we
They
go.
could. You never
Yes.
know.
Hey, look, how many conservative families have liberal kids?
Yes,
Turns
true.
around after that. That's right. Kids like to rebel against the parent. I use smoking as an example. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, a lot of the kids thought smoking was cool. They rebelled against their parents. Well, later on, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the era I grew up in, well, the parents were smoking, and we kids were thinking, you know what? Let's do something different and not smoke.
So they went to marijuana.
Well, somewhat, I guess. It depends. Because if you're rebelling against 60s hippie parents, then you got to go straight-laced. All right, I'm kidding about that. But think about that. A lot of these leftist families might wind up seeing their kids red pilled. They're not going to like that either. They're going to be upset. And how many of these kids have you seen on their TikTok videos from the left going, I have shut my parents and my family out of my life because they voted for Trump. What kind of people are these? It used to be families would speak about politics, sometimes argue, and then fine. But nowadays, it's like these people are encouraged not to. Well, pretty much they're pretty easily susceptible to media and political propaganda, to the point where these girls are not wanting families. They're self-uglifying to make themselves unattractive to people so they won't have their families. And Gen Z boys, they've been taught that they're horrible, that they're too aggressive, and that if a woman, and they're afraid that if a woman accuses of something wrong, their lives could end. They could be kicked out of school. They could be thrown in jail by a woman who cries rape. They're afraid to date too. So modern dating stinks as well. There are a lot of factors to Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and soon Gen Beta not having kids and our population dwindling.
The left wants to architect a set of policies which make it difficult to procreate.
So let's go to your Kissinger report. The Kissinger report was discussing, and you did a real huge, excellent special on this a while back, and we should probably talk about this again, but in this kind of light. They were discussing ways to depopulate the world. Well, It took a few generations, but propaganda aimed at discouraging reproduction it could hurt the system in the future. But right now, the depopulationists, those who are for negative population growth, there used to be a group called negative population growth. I used to get their propaganda emails. But these people found a way to slowly manipulate I'm going to say the regular American population, British population, Western Europe population of, let's just say, natives of their countries, if you will, people who were born there, to stop procreating or to be afraid to date, or to or economically make it too expensive for some kids to believe they can own a home anymore and start a family.
Well, the point is that as the white population is encouraged to stop producing, then the idea is the people of color will take over, and that appeals to the globalists.
Very much so.
Destabilize.
Agreed.
And the whole point, as I point out, it can show the cover of the book, the truth about neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy. And I stress that this book, I think, is one of the more important ones, especially right now, that I've written to read, because it shows how we got here through the evolution of Marxism from the original idea that in 1848 that workers of the world would revolt against capitalism, which they did not do. And so Marx was a failed theory that got morphed into an attack on the culture of capitalism, as best exemplified by the Frankfurt School, who fled Germany, a bunch of Jews, ended up in Hollywood and Columbia University, and writing books like Marcuse, Eros and Civilization, which said we need to read Freud into Marx so that the true liberation is sexual liberation. And so therefore the sex, drugs, and rock and roll of the 1960s were born as destabilizing factors to undermine the the family consisting of father and mother and children, and belief in God. All these were values that were under attack systematically by the left in a conscious attempt to destroy America since 1917. There's the Frankfurt School, and I discussed that in the book on the neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy, the truth about those. First book was the truth about energy, global warming, and climate change. It was very well received, and I will start writing a third book on the transhumanism, permanent life extension, and artificial intelligence. Okay, so I want to shift to the economics because, again, the economics continue to show that gold is trading over $4,085 an ounce right now, and silver's at $50.91 an ounce. I'm imploring you to go to our tabs on the Corsi Nation website on gold and to start working with Swiss America. You can get this 250 coin walking liberty $50. You can buy up to that number as a first-time buyer and consultant, in a consultation with Swiss America. Also, look through the website. There's a lot of reports we've written that are free, a lot of forms to fill out. Begin dialoguing with Swiss America because the dollar as fiat currency is rapidly dying. And this is one of the next crises Donald Trump is going to have to face. It's happening in Europe too. Europe is trying now to cap the price of energy in order not to completely deindustrialize. And Europe's going to have a debt crisis that's massive in 2026. Also, use the toll-free number at Swiss America, get a copy of the book that I co-authored with Dean Heskin, who runs Swiss America. The book is called How the Coming Global Crash Will Create a Historic Gold Rush. Call 1-800-519-6268. Need to write that number down. It's 1-800, and it'll show up here again, the bottom of the screen in a minute. The toll-free number, 1-800-519-6268. Get a copy of the book, How the Coming Global Crash Will Create an Historic Gold Rush. It's happening right now. We started talking about this gold was at $1,800 an ounce, and now it's over $4,000 an ounce. You'd have made a lot of money having listened to the advice we were giving going back a couple of years. Internationally, I think we've got a calm period of time, although Russia looks like it's going to take some key towns in Donbass, which will give Russia pretty much a much more clear sailing to Kiev. And Trump seems to have backed off the Russian situation, knowing that Putin is not going to just quit fighting, stand in place. Putin has some other objectives he wants to accomplish, like controlling the Donbass, the Russian-speaking areas of Ukraine on the east. And Putin doesn't seem like he's going to stop. Putin, I think, believes he can beat the United States in both a conventional and nuclear war. And I think Putin's disregard for the United States under the Clinton, Obama, Biden years is enormous. And he knows he's got an upper hand right at the moment in terms of Russia's weapon development, which we may or may not be lagging. It's hard to know because we don't have all the intelligence of what we've done to keep up with Russia in this arms race. Taiwan is also kind of in a limbo at the moment. Nigeria is a focus with killing Christians, and Trump has said he will go in and stop that. And we're off the coast of Venezuela with the Navy destroying these gunboats that are trying to bring drugs into the United States, which the left, of course, supports. The left supports every bad idea you can think of. And I saw an interview with Craig Lund, who did Satanic Satan, did a very good interview on the book. And I encourage people to still read it, as well as to read all the things I've done in terms of trying to explain how the climate change hoax was just another narrative that the left wanted to put upon us in order to have us self-destruct. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Today is Monday. It's November 17th, 2025. In the end, God always wins. Even when it looks difficult, God will win here too. And if we join in the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14 to get on our knees and ask God to forgive us for letting the culture get to this point of abandoning God, abandoning family, abandoning all the values that have traditionally made human beings worthwhile, God will hear our prayer and heal our land. Visit us at CorsiNation.com for our daily podcast. Go to God's Five Stones, G-O-D, no apostrophe in the S, F-I-V-E, spelled out as a word, and stones plural. We're raising additional money. We're going to be doing a lot on election integrity. It's getting time for President Trump to release his memo on the way the 2026 elections are going to be held. And it's going to be another jolt to the Democrats. Trump is continuing to put the military in the cities to control the cities, and the cities are a mess in the United States, getting to be more of a mess with the Democrats deciding to run these Democratic Socialists of America, Marxist, with a leaning toward radical Islam. It's hard to think God will win here too, but God will. God did not create this place to lose. Dr. Jerome Corsi will be back tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. God bless.